name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the podcast. You're stuck with Mark on a solo recording today. Luke and Ryan unable to make this catch up with a guest. Reason being, today, date of recording the 4th of December 2025. I think this will come out with the break that we'll have over Christmas, probably early in January. But as the time of recording, 4th of December is International Cheetah Day. Not cheetah as in cheating on their respective partners. Cheetah as in the animal. International Cheetah Day is the 4th of December, and the boys recognise that and are actually spending the day at Australia Zoo together. Visiting the cheetah sanctuary up there. So very lovely for them, and hope they enjoy International Cheetah Day and respecting and enjoying what a fast animal that is. And yeah, I'm sure they're partaking in the experience up there at Australia Zoo on the Sunshine Coast. So enjoy that, guys. Whilst they are away, I do have some clues for you as always. So 3 clues. To guess where our guest is from. Play along at home, see if you can guess where our guest is from today. So clue number 1, this place produces more oranges than most countries. It's the second largest producer of orange juice after Brazil and one of the top global exporters of the citrus fruit. That's your clue number 1. Pause the podcast now if you want to have a guess. Clue number 2, this place is home to the largest cruise port in the world, serving as the busiest port for cruise passengers globally and a key hub for international tourism. That's your second clue. Pause the podcast if you want to have a guess. Third and final clue for you at home. It's this sinkhole capital of the world. Due to its limestone bedrock, this place is prone to sinkholes and has some of the highest sinkhole activity globally, making it a key location for geological research. So if you haven't guessed at home, the place that we're in today is Florida in the United States, specifically Sarasota. I haven't been there, but yeah, apparently more oranges than most countries. Largest cruise port in the world is in Port Miami, and the sinkhole capital of the world, which is crazy. Sarasota is a vibrant coastal city on Florida's Gulf Coast, known for its stunning white sand beaches, thriving art scene, and deep ties to circus history. As the former winter home of the Ringling Bros, Florida is a globally iconic state known for its tropical climate, diverse ecosystems, space exploration legacy, and its role as a top destination for tourism, culture, and innovation. Today's guest runs her own beauty business while raising her girls solo with the little ones by her side each day. They keep active together, hitting workouts and heading to church every Sunday. Whilst many wouldn't know, she's built her life with a small support system, choosing distance from her family and focusing on creating a strong, loving community of her own. So from Sarasota in Florida, please welcome Alyssa Barletta. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially, Alyssa. Thank you very much for joining us all the way over from Florida.
Thank you for having me.
I just mentioned to you before we hit the record button, thank you for working out the time. I know you've got a couple of little ones at home and we're recording this after their bedtime. So hopefully you don't have to jump up, but totally understand if you do, if someone needs something, a glass of water or a toilet break or something like that. But thanks for jumping on. Thank you for making the time. If we jump straight in, if you'd like to tell us who we're talking about today, their relationship to you, and then what happened to that person.
Yeah, so I'm talking about my children's father. We actually split up last October, and then 2 months later, he was in a car accident. He was not driving, he was the passenger of the car accident. So it's just a lot of things that happened between those 2 months. I kind of would have guessed that something similar like this would have happened just based on like history and our relationship. Um, but yeah, it was pretty traumatic, like finding out what happened. We didn't find out for like 36 hours after the car accident, because the car actually burned and they couldn't identify the bodies. So him and his friend both passed away, and they hit somebody, his buddy hit somebody head on, and she ended up passing away as well.
And was it a freak accident? Was there substances involved, or did that come
Yeah.
out?
Yeah. So like I said, we were split up for not even 2 months, and I was really trying to co-parent and invited him. It was a year ago today. It was actually December 2nd of last year. I asked him if he wanted to go to a Christmas event with the girls. Our girls were a year and 2.5 at the time. And he was just adamant about never co parenting with me, and we're never going anywhere ever again. And so um, he had mentioned that he wasn't going to call them because he was out at dinner. Um, but I knew that that meant that he was drinking. So um, he owned a tree company and he finished a really big job that day. And so he wanted to celebrate with his friends. And, it was like kind of discreet, but I knew that's what was going on. So I called him anyway with my kids and they said goodnight. Thinking back, like they never would have talked to their dad again if he said, no, I'm just not going to call them tonight. Um, and then after they hung up, he was texting me a little bit, and I knew like from all the typos and miscommunication that that's what he was doing. And it lasted like a couple hours until almost 11 p.m. And then around 3 in the morning, I got a text message from him that made absolutely no sense. And they said 20 minutes later is actually when the accident was reported to happen. So when we talked to him at dinner, um, they, I guess, went to two other locations after some like adult entertainment center. And that shocked me because I've never known him to be in any of those environments. But his friend who was driving that night, um, he was going through a divorce with his wife and their child. And that was just the way that they were coping. So they were on the way home to my house, actually. And they were like 10 minutes away from my house. But the road that it happened on is actually in Florida is known for accidents. Like it's been under construction for several years. So now a year later, you can't even see where the accident happened. That whole side of the road is completely closed off. Um, but yeah, so they were definitely under the influence. And then we found out from the driver's wife, because they had the same phone plan, she was able to get the records that there was other more than just alcohol involved, and the text message disclosed that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how did you find out? How were you notified? Was that through authorities, or did someone contact you?
No, so I woke up the next morning to that text message at 3. It was 3:08 in the morning, December 3rd. And I thought it was really suspicious. So when my kids woke up before 7 a.m., not even 4 hours later, we would always just call him because he was running a tree business. So he would start his day talking to the kids. And yeah, so I called and it went to voicemail. And I was like, okay, so he must just be sleeping and his phone's dead. Well, until noon, it went to voicemail and just kept going to voicemail. So at the time, because we split up, I was staying with family. And I remember looking at my dad and I was like, I think Trevor's dead. And he was like, no, there's no way. He's just out drunk somewhere. And I was like, no, I have this gut feeling that he's dead. And so I was like, I checked all the like I called all the hospitals. I checked all of like the jails from like 4 different counties, like because his friend lived south of here, like an hour. And I was like, there's no other possibility. His phone's never gone straight to voicemail all day long. So um, I was just trying not to bite the bullet. And, I still to this day don't talk to his family. So I was hesitant to tell them anything because I didn't want to be wrong and then them be like, oh, just because like there was history where he did go missing for days at a time or overnight was in jail or something due to drinking as well. Um, so I didn't say anything to his family until that evening, until like 5 p.m. So it was over 12 hours later. And I reached out to his grandma, who's out of state, and they're very close. And I just asked her, have you heard of Trevor? Have you heard from Trevor? I'm getting concerned. I haven't heard from him all day. This has never happened before, like usually somebody says something, like he's not active on social media, like nothing. I haven't heard anything. And she's like, no, but I'm gonna see if his mom's heard from him. And I'm like, well, if I haven't heard from him, his mom's not gonna hear from him, like he calls our kids all day.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really think something happened. And at the time he was watching my dog because I couldn't bring her at my family's house. So I was like, I need to go to the house and check and see if my dog's okay or has been taken care of or what the circumstance is. So I remember his mom or his grandma telling me his mom's on the way to your house. But because I was staying with family, I was an hour away. So I said, well, when my kids go to sleep, I'm going to come there. And she tried to tell me not to go. His mom's going to handle it. And I was like, she's never been to our house before. Like, she wouldn't know if anything was off because she's never seen the home before. We had lived there for, I think, 5 months at the time, but I had been gone the last 2 months. So even then, like, I wouldn't really know because he had friends living with him occasionally, and I didn't step foot in the house because we were just trying to work things out. So I ended up putting my kids to sleep, showing up at my house, and as I'm getting into the neighborhood, a officer calls me and he's like questioning me, but of course I'm like, well, I'm about to be there. I didn't say that though. And so I was just like emotional. I had like so many feelings all over the place. I didn't know his mom was going to be there before me. And I showed up and she was really nasty to me. And she told the cop that I'm involved in him missing. And the cop proceeded to tell me that I had no rights to be at my house and I needed to leave. And his mom just like turned the whole story. So I had asked her, I was like, well, did you check inside the house? Like, are you sure he's not anywhere to be found? Is my dog okay, And she just again like dismissed me and was like giving me attitude. So I was like, all right, well, you're here because I'm concerned. Nobody else
Mm.
had any indication that something was wrong. Anyway, the police officer made me leave and told me that if I have any information of his whereabouts or who he was with to contact them. So I drove all the way there, couldn't even figure anything out, and I had to turn around an hour back. So, of course, now I'm really wondering like what could have happened. So I remember on that drive home I called my brother who he had a company where they would exchange work sometimes because it was just like similar industries. And he was like, that sounds so suspicious. Like I bet he was out with some of his coworkers. So I immediately look for one of his coworkers on social media and contact him. And, because he was Trevor's drinking friend as well as his employee, I knew that it could go one of two ways. Like he could either give me information or he could believe his mom, thinking that I really had something to do with this. So at first he was like totally on my side. And then the next morning, he called me and he was like, okay, so I know the third person. So come to find out, that worker of his went out with them as well, but he had to leave early. So the other Trevor and the other friend stayed back. So I'm like, who's this friend? What's his name? Like, I don't know a lot of Trevor's friends. Like, you need to help me here. And so, because we could not figure out who it was, it led me to social media. So I posted, because like where I was staying with family was the same city that his buddy who was driving lived in. So I figured like mutual friends would find out something. So I had asked, I heard Trevor's friend's um, name was Sean, and I just wanted to know if anybody knew what happened to him. I don't know him at all, but if anyone's heard anything about him, let me know. So some random person called me and was like, "Did you hear what happened to him?" And I'm like, "No, I don't even know his name. Like, could you tell me everything?" And so he sends me the article, and he's like, he was identified as the driver of a head-on collision, and they believe that the passenger is a female. And I was like, "What do you mean?" So then where's Trevor? Like, if he isn't that passenger, then we really have even more of a situation. So at that point, his mom was apologetic from the night before, and I sent her the article, and immediately she was like, "No, that's got to be Trevor." So she contacted law enforcement or was in contact from the night before. I'm not honestly sure. But basically, they got a call. His mom and stepdad got a call, and they had to identify like dental records, and they confirmed it was him. So over, it was like 30 hours after the accident that it was confirmed.
Yeah. It's such a it seems like a quite a long time, and you not necessarily a long time, but I guess all the running around you were doing and all the chasing and trying to contact people and find out or confirm, I guess, your gut feeling. Um, did that seem like a long time? Did it feel like a really short time to
Oh,
you?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple other incidents that were similar, like getting arrested and being in jail overnight, but it was never over a 24-hour period.
Mm. Yeah.
So when I had somebody drive past the house to like make sure, if my dog was alive, if like any activity was going on at the house, all of his work vehicles were there. Um, and that was, I think, 6 p.m., but still, that was like 12 hours after it had happened. So it looked like at first that a bunch of people were there, all the lights were on, they could see my dog in the window. But yeah, like he had a tree service, so there was rented equipment outside with like big trailers, and people ended up showing up after they found out what happened, like demanding their machinery back
Mm.
because it was even past, the date that it was supposed to be back. So yeah, it was definitely a unique situation, but I just had that gut feeling because of the way that he was texting, the way that his phone kept going to voicemail, and he never leaves all of his stuff like that at the house.
Yeah.
So
And then so how was that period, obviously it's only been 12 months, but how was that period of time for you? And then secondary to that, how did you then, break that news to the girls, and how old were they at the time?
So my youngest turned or one exactly 2 weeks before. And that's another thing that I was really trying to co-parent, like just celebrating her first birthday, and he just
Mm.
absolutely would not give in at all. So that's like a huge regret that I have. And then my older daughter, she was 2.5 when it happened. And like I said, we were at my dad's house. Um, and my dad and stepmom are not like the type of people that know how to comfort people or like talk to you about any negativity, or I just kind of brush it off. So they left us, just me and the girls at the house. And I was just crying, like I remember getting the news from his mom. She was like confirming, yes, I had to identify him. And then I just started crying and told my dad, like screamed it out loud. I was like, Trevor's dead. And he was like, don't say that in front of the kids. And I was like, they don't even know what that means. Like they've never heard that word before. And he's like, well, like you're just saying it. And I was like, yeah, but it's what happened,
Mm.
just like being a realist about it. So I didn't tell them at first. I was just like emotional, obviously telling them like we can't call your dad. But also my older daughter, although she was 2.5, like didn't speak very well. So she had
Yeah.
a speech delay and I just didn't know if she would understand. So fast forward to a couple days later, his mom starts threatening me, telling me I'm not allowed to go back to my house because there was some domestic violence us, prior to his death, and that is why we split up. Um, so there were like previous like court ordered that I wasn't allowed to be there, but that wasn't disclosed to family, apparently wasn't disclosed to his family that it was all dropped and like that was still my house. So I still had 7 months left on our lease, So at first, his mom was like, we'll do anything to take care of you and the kids. And then the next day, she was like, we're going to continue his business instead of sell things and make sure that you guys are okay. Because he was our sole provider. Like, although we were split up, like, I stayed home with our kids for that whole year since having both girls. So just like her not being consistent with me, and like what she was planning, I just had like a gut feeling that I needed to go back to my house before she went in and like tried to take anything that is now my children's, which I didn't know. I didn't know family members were like that during death because I'd never been in this situation before. But I immediately packed up my stuff after she was like, you're not allowed back at your house, threatening me that she'll call the cops if I go back. So I went back with my children immediately, and I had two of my family members stay with me that night. And then I had to contact the police and tell them, like this is the situation, just in case something does come of it. I just want to get like everything covered. Like, here's my lease, this is the circumstance. And then the next morning, his mom showed up and she demanded all of his vehicle titles, all of his vehicle keys, birth certificates, like just trying to take over his business, but never being involved with his business. So I just knew immediately like there was not good intentions behind it. So basically like I told the cops like if she's not here to console and be here for her granddaughters, then there's no reason that she should be here. So it's harassment at this point. So long story short, we haven't spoke since a couple like his mother and I have not spoke since a couple days after his accident because she turned off the power and like left us with no power and said like it's in her son's name and she repossessed his vehicle which had like a bunch of my children's stuff in it, like did all of this in secrecy. So that was traumatic within itself, like after finding out what happened, like I didn't think that family could be that evil. But yeah, so that happened within the first week, and ever since, like, we have just been figuring it out, like, day by day. Since we moved back to our house and it was only 10 minutes from the accident, that's how I started telling my daughters. I still don't think my youngest daughter has any idea. Like, she was 1. I don't think she remembers her dad at all.
Yeah.
But my oldest daughter, like she will repeat things just because like my older daughter, now that she's talking better, she does tell me she misses her dad and that she's sad. And um I drove past the accident a few times because there's no grave. There was never a ceremony, like his mom just didn't do anything. I don't know why she had to be so bitter about everything, but yeah, the only place that we have like in remembrance is the crash site, unfortunately. Um, so for like the first month or so, we would drive past it a lot because it was like 4 miles from our house. I know that it's probably not miles, it's like kilometers there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's how I started telling them, like, this is the last place that your daddy was. He got a big boo-boo all over his body, and we cannot see him, but he's still here with us. And so, like, to this day, my daughter knows that he's in heaven, and she'll like point to the sky. But she does say, like, daddy got a boo-boo all over his body. So that's just my oldest daughter. She will be 4 in April. So she has a better understanding. Her sister just kind of tells me, I miss daddy. Like, I don't know
Mm.
if she has any, but
Yeah, probably a little bit too young. How do you how would you describe Trevor? It's not I don't know if it's obvious, but maybe a tricky situation given the breakup and everything. But how long were you guys together, and how would you describe Trevor as a person, as a partner, as a dad? This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month. As a dad.
yeah, it's definitely a tricky question. We were together for 5 years, but we had like a little breakup in the beginning, and then we ran into each other like 6 months later. Um, so like at first he was very charismatic, like very charming, very like keen to detail, seemed like he really cared. Um, Made it known. I met him right before his 30th birthday. So he had made it known, I do not drink, I don't go out. And then like a month later, we were celebrating his 30th birthday drinking. So right then and there, I knew that like he was struggling from something. Um, and we only dated for a short period in the beginning. And then, like I said, we split up. It was just very back and forth, like inconsistent. And then we ran into each other like 5 to 6 months later. And immediately he was like super protective, very like interrogative about like my past 5 months of life, and just wanted to completely take control of things. But if you didn't know him behind closed doors, you would never ever see that side of him. He was definitely like very caring, loved pouring into people, especially for his tree work. Like he would give his shirt off his back for anybody, but he definitely had like his own demons. So most people would be like, we have nothing bad to say about him. And it's just because they didn't truly know what he had been through, like how much trauma. Um, and him and I are like very similar in our upbringing. So of course, like I thought like if I just give a little bit of myself, a little more of myself, or like a little less of like things that he didn't like, then maybe like I could truly change him. Um, and I will say within like the first 3 or 4 months of us getting back together, I moved with him about an hour and a half away from my family. and we were planning to have a life together. Things moved like very quickly, but he was starting a business at the same time that I was finishing grad school, and he was kind of the type of person that like couldn't compete with others. So that was like a huge red flag. Immediately just noticing um, like he just wasn't very supportive of like my goals and my aspirations because he wanted to be like the star and he wanted to take care of me. So immediately, when I finished grad school and I transferred locations to like step up in a different position, um, things got physical, and it was all because he was drinking. And that was the very first incident, and I knew that I had to leave. So I did for a few months, but during that time period, I also found out I was pregnant with my first daughter. So that brought even more emotion and not knowing like what the right decision was. So we did our gender reveal together, and then I moved back with him. And things were really good for 2 months, but then it just was a cycle. Like something bad would happen, he would drink. We would fight, he would drink, he would disappear. So we had a lot of great memories in between all of that, but it was definitely a different side of him that I saw than 99% of people would have seen.
Yeah.
And as far as being a dad, like he was a great hands-on dad, very like very supportive, loved his kids. Him and our oldest daughter were like the best of friends. So it's really hard because she looks just like him, she acts goofy like him, like they're just very similar. Um, and then yeah, it's just heartbreaking. Like your kids are always gonna ask where their dad is and like go to school and not have a dad. So there's just a lot of emotions. But as far as being a dad, like he was a good dad. But again, that's hard for me to say because they also witnessed a lot of abuse and trauma that they'll never understand because they were so little, and I don't want them to remember that. So I really try to go out of my way and just tell them like, this was your daddy's favorite thing. Oh, your dad loved to do this. Remember we did this with your dad, like that type of stuff.
Yeah. Um, and what were those things, and what are some of those memories that you will remember doing, with him, either prior to the girls or with them as a family? What are some of those key memories
I
that you
mean,
remember?
it's as small as like his favorite thing to eat, or like my oldest daughter loves chips and I'm like, wow, your dad loved junk food too, like just like little quirky things. um and then like just we went on a lot of like outdoor explorations. Like we love to travel, we love to like find a new botanical garden or park and like go hiking, and we really wanted to go backpacking with our kids. But the main memory that I have is we took a huge road trip up to Michigan where his family lives. The grandma who I contacted that night, she lives there, and yeah, we rented an RV and we went from Florida all the way to Michigan. It was like 24 hours, but even longer because we had a 3-month-old baby. And it was amazing because we got to stop and see different parts on the way up to Michigan. And then, like, I got to see his whole childhood. So, he showed me like where he was born, and we went to the beach a lot. And then there's an island up in the Upper Peninsula, which is like almost Canada, and they call it God's country up there. So he just really showed me like a lot of nature, and there's like private islands. We went on a ferry too, and it was really cool because we got to bring our daughter, and that was the first time his family met me and their granddaughter, and it was a really good time. And then we did it the following year. And then Last year, we never went because we were just going through so many things, like our dynamic of a relationship. So we never went. And yeah, 2024 just really took a toll. And here we are. So,
Yeah. Those are nice memories of, that trip that you took. In terms of coping, obviously you mentioned before about maybe the lack of sympathy from your side of the family, and certainly on his side, just by the sounds of it. So how have you coped over the past 12 months?
I'm just open. I just talk about it. Um, I I mean, I have some family that's there for me. Uh, but I had to have like a face-to-face conversation with my dad and stepmom because they immediately were like, "Well, you must need help, Alyssa." And I was like, "Well, I mean, anybody that just went through this, I'm sure would need help. You can't really speak until you go through it to know what it feels like or what to do." Um, so my dad at first was like, "Yeah, I'll pay for your therapy. Like, grief therapy is definitely needed." And I was like, "No, it's fine. Like, it was like a huge feud at first. And then I kind of just went about it on my own. I mean, I went through like some resources that, like, through this area were provided for people in this situation. I leaned on people that I knew that went through the same thing. It's actually really crazy. One of my good friends from high school, 2 months before, like maybe a couple days after him and I split up, her husband died in an accident the exact same way, but he was by himself. And so, yeah, just like finding people that can relate, like, really helped me in the very beginning. And I just kind of went about my life the way that I would. I mean, us splitting up kind of prepared me for like what looking like a single mom would be like, like the cleaning, the taking care of the kids, cooking, all that kind of stuff. um and then I finally was like, all right, I need a break. Like, I can't just be on autopilot for the rest of my life. And so I did finally like seek out a counselor. So I did therapy for 6 months, and I kind of just was like, well, I already know all these things. Like, I know why I choose the type of people that I do. That's really what it comes down to, is why you were with a partner that had, substance issues, and like why you would forgive them, and those trauma bonds. So yeah, I just talked about it a lot. I just never hid it from anybody. So
Yeah. And would that be, I don't want to make assumptions, but is that the advice when we talk about um, helping people in similar situations that might have a similar situation to yourself, or be going through something similar to yourself? Is that the piece of advice you would give around, talking through it?
yeah, I definitely think like it is situational for sure, because it depends on how they pass. Like, can you prepare for it, or was it just spontaneous? Um, as well as like everybody's different. So, they talk about the stages of grief and like how it's going to come in different waves and it'll affect everybody differently. And that is 1,000% true. Like, there's no, like, I cannot tell you like a clear cut answer. This is the exact way that you should heal. Really, I just think like being in tune with what you're feeling, like, just whether it being talking about it, writing about it, singing, like whatever your outlet is, like, just don't mask it is the biggest thing. Because I am a firm believer that the reason that he went out that night and passed away is because he was masking it the whole time. Like, not one time did he tell me he missed his family. Not one time was he even trying to be nice to me. Like, it was really bad. So I just wish like he was more open about it so that this wouldn't have happened. Like, drinking was not his choice for how he coped. So I definitely think like going head first and like feeling it is the main way to heal.
Yeah. Going forward, this is a very different conversation to a lot of the past conversations that we've had on the podcast. Given, the breakup, and as you said, you were preparing for a life of single motherhood anyway. That sounds a little bit harsh to say anyway, but you were, preparing yourself, if
But
you know
he
what I
did
mean.
threaten it too. So
Yeah, yeah. So how will you, yourself, but also alongside the girls, remember Trevor going forward, and will you, or is that, I don't know, it's a really tricky one given that, as you said, you were preparing for life as a single mother.
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message, be remembered.
A single mother. Is it
I
something that
mean,
you'll?
I will say that that night, like he was saying, the night that he went out, he was saying things like, our girls are going to have to live with this for the rest of their life. And I was like, live with what? What are you talking about? Like, it's just one night, like that you weren't going to talk to them. And so we were talking about going to therapy. Like, just, he had always said, why don't we go to therapy? But he would never be serious and do it. um, and also we would both give excuses and be like, well, you need personal therapy and like you need it individually too, like not just as a couple. So that night I sent him like a code to sign up and he was like, well, like I got like a discount for couples therapy or family therapy rather. Um and he was like, okay, well, I don't trust giving you my card, so I'll just do it tomorrow, which is wild because, like, who says that and then tomorrow doesn't come?
Mm,
So I just am a firm believer that, like, life is so short that, of course, if you have kids with somebody, like, you should prepare for them to be in your life for the rest of your life or until they're grown because at the end of the day, like that's why you had kids. So there shouldn't be bad blood. Um, just being cordial is like the only way, no matter what. And I was really trying for that, but sometimes you just never know. Um,
mm.
what was the other question that you
I
asked?
guess, yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one with the relationship, but have you given any thought to around keeping Trevor's legacy alive, or how will you
Oh,
you'll remember
absolutely.
him? Yeah.
Yeah. So today, like I said, was the 1 year.
Mm,
And every day, there's almost every day that I talk about him. I mean, I'm not the type. So, like the first month, we were looking at pictures of daddy every single night. Like, it was a lot. It was exhausting. Um, but, here we are. Like, we can't just dwell on it every single day. But if there's something that pops in my brain, like, I will, of course, like, connect the dots and tell my daughter, like, oh, your dad loved this, or we went here with your dad. um, so today, in honor of him, we actually went to his favorite beach and we made like a keepsake jar and we put sand in it, picked out some seashells. The girls loved it. I just kept telling them, like, this is for daddy. We're gonna go talk to him. Um, because especially my oldest, like she has been having night terrors lately. And so I've been trying to ask her what's wrong. And I have always subconsciously known like it's got to be because she realizes she's never going to see her dad again. And I've tried to get her into play therapy, and there's like a couple other therapies here, but they're not for her age, or I have to drive like hours to get it. And it's obviously not going to be effective unless it's in person, especially for her age. So that's like something that I still really need to work on more is getting like her more adjusted. Um, but yeah, again, like just being open as much as possible. So, today I was like, is that the shell you want to pick out for your dad? We're gonna write a message for him in the bottle. And we like rolled it up and I just kept asking them like what they wanted to say. And so I basically just included, like I forgive you for everything you've done. I hate that you're not here and seeing our kids. Your kids love you. Like, they talk about you all the time. Um, yeah, I mean, I just want them to know, like, it's okay. Like, I don't know how spiritual everybody is, but, I definitely feel his presence. And my daughter, the last, like, couple weeks, I've asked her, like, what's waking you up? Why are you waking up screaming? Because she's, like, frantic. Like, she's in distraught, like, every single time she wakes up. And she's like, Daddy's waking me up. And I'm like, is that actually what's happening? Or, like, is that just trauma that's affecting her? So it's hard to tell because she's not even 4 yet. But yeah, so we made that keepsake bottle, and my oldest was so excited about, like, sending it to Daddy. Again, I don't know if that means to her that she's going to see her dad. I don't know what she's thinking, but we walked up on the pier and we went, like, halfway down, and I was like, all right, we're gonna let it go. The message is gonna go to Daddy, and we're gonna tell him how much we miss him. And yeah, that's what we did. And I just asked them if they wanted to say anything before we let it go, and they both were like, I love you, Daddy. And yeah, so we spent the day at the beach today and had his favorite food for dinner. So I had a
Which is
friend,
what?
pizza
Okay.
of all things.
What
So
was Trevor's pizza order? What did he have? What was his
he
favorite?
honestly was, like, the most basic eater. So he would just have, like, pepperoni.
Okay.
So very
Yeah.
Americanized food.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so my friend actually came over with a bunch of different pizzas, like 5 different pizzas, and she was like, I didn't know what you wanted, so I just got you all something.
Yeah.
So that's how we
I think
honored
it's
him today.
look, I think it's beautiful that you're doing that, and obviously, I don't know the intimate details and what you went through as a couple, and that led to the breakup and all the rest of it. But I think I'm sure there'd be certainly people out there going through a similar situation that wouldn't show the care and compassion around, continuing to talk about him, or a partner that have passed. So I think that's beautiful that you're still continuing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky for sure. I definitely have positive and negative memories, but at the end of the day, I just know, like, not having somebody to talk to about your kids, like, nobody's gonna get it. There's not one other person on this whole planet that would understand what it's like to watch your kid grow up. So that's always gonna hurt. So they don't deserve me to be sad about it all the time or, like, talk negatively. So I would just much
Yeah.
rather them be happy when they think of their dad. So
Yeah. What lessons have you learned from this over the past 12 months?
just truly how short and precious life is, and that no matter what, like, just suck it up. Like, just get along with family, like, pride can only go so far because you just really never know what's going to happen. Um, and that just kind of leads me to, like, being aware of not just the season that people are in, but, like, really learning, like, different chapters of their life before you, like, really invest with somebody, because I would have never in a million years imagined my kids to go without a dad, especially at a young age. Like, just really, like, being aware of, like, people's characteristics and knowing who to choose and keep in your life and who to weed out. So yeah, just really picking healthy people, especially a healthy partner, is, like, my biggest takeaway message. And it has just taught me that just because, I'm talking about, like, his addiction or his negative choices, it wasn't just his fault. Like, obviously, I was unhealthy enough to stay and forgive and stick around thinking that things would change. So really it comes down to, like, who you are as a person and digging deep and figuring out like why you chose those type of people and how to make yourself better so that you're not in that circumstance again. So yeah, it's just really done like a lot of soul searching for me.
Yeah. I guess, and this is purely just an outsider looking in, Alyssa, on the flip side of that, you've got two beautiful girls to share a long, happy life with, and build a long, happy life with. So that's, I guess, the rainbow that comes out of that storm.
Yeah, they're great. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm like, sucks that your dad can't see it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and especially during the holidays.
Yeah. This time of year, yeah, we hear that often is especially hard. Um, Alicia, I've got one final question for the main part of the podcast. I want to be respectful of your time. Um, if this, again, it's only been 12 months, so, and traditionally this is our most difficult question, so take your time and take care with this one. Um, if Trevor was in front of you today, I know you started to mention it a little bit with the jar that you had made for him, but if he was in front of you today, what would you say to him?
I don't even know. That's a hard question. I would probably just thank him and tell him how grateful I am for giving me the best gifts of life. Um, yeah, there's just so much unsettled with no closure. But at the end of the day, like I'm so grateful that he helped me become a mom. So I have two amazing girls. So yeah, I just tell him I love him for giving me the girls.
Yeah. Thank you for answering that. Probably an extra tough question with the relationship and everything that you guys have obviously gone through. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing, memories and the situation that you went through with Trevor. I'm sure, the bits of advice you've given and others hearing your story will certainly help someone else that's going through grief, you know, their own grief
Yeah.
journey. So thanks very much for giving up your time and
Yeah, I
sharing.
really just hope it does help somebody because I have like until something tragic happens to you or you just lose somebody, like you don't actually hear about these types of stories. So it has connected me with people all over the world that have gone through this and it's just been an eye opener. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
grateful to be able to be connected with them.
No, we're super grateful to have you on and sharing your story because we've found, yeah, we don't hear it all the time, but every so often you'll get some sort of message or something where people will just reach out and say thank you, that that story has certainly helped, whatever they're dealing with, whatever part, whatever wave they're undertaking with this ongoing, grief journey. So I've no doubt it'll help. So and continue that, the talking that you're doing because it'll just continue to help other people. But I think even, yourself, Alyssa, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's helping yourself as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think honesty is the best way to go about it.
So that was Alyssa from Sarasota in Florida. Wonderful having her on. Yeah, just a really different conversation to a lot of the ones we've had. Given, the breakup and the relationship that she had with Trevor and what it led to, and then, him passing away. So there's a fair bit there that, she's obviously having to navigate with his family and, the distance with her family and having two young kids. So there's just so much being thrown at Alyssa there. So just I mentioned to her she's doing such an amazing job, and to make sure that she's looking after herself. Because I know, a lot of mothers will put, the two kids first, her little girls first, but she absolutely needs to make sure she's looking after herself and continuing. She mentioned in the Patreon that she's, starting to read again and, exercise. So it's, equally important that she looks after herself. Um, I think one of the first definitely the first guest that we've had that have, lost someone quite recently after a breakup, which is, crazy that it's just another first. But then speaking to Alyssa, she mentioned that she's, been able to connect with people all over the world through her speaking about it on social media, and people reaching out and having very similar circumstances where, they've broken up, relationships have ended, and then their partner, often, the male partners have passed away, leaving, a young family behind. So there's certainly a lot of people out there that are going through something similar. And if you are, please make sure you know someone, I should say, that is going through something similar to Alyssa. They would certainly benefit from her story and hearing how she's dealt with it and dealing with it. And the bits of advice she gave. So please share this episode with Alyssa to any of your friends, family, or colleagues that may need to hear it. Equally, any of our other previous episodes as well. Pretty crazy that, the day I mentioned in the intro that it's the 4th of December, obviously with the time difference, it's the 3rd of December over in the States. And that's, the date of Trevor's passing. So it's just pretty crazy. And we did have actually, for peek behind the curtain, we had this booked in a week prior, and then just due to a clash of scheduling, we had to reschedule to today. So pretty crazy that it had been rescheduled to that particular date, and it fell on the anniversary of Trevor passing. Bit of serendipity there, if you believe in that. So really grateful and honored having Alyssa on. Thank you, Alyssa, for coming on to the podcast and sharing your story. Absolutely think it will help someone else out there listening to this. Please share this episode. Please jump on your preferred listening platform and give us a review, and a share and a follow, and 5 stars ideally, because it helps us show up on anyone looking for a grief-related conversation. Reminder that we have the Patreon membership as well. So $5 a month, $6 a month US, I believe, $9 a month Australian, which gives you exclusive access to the chats that we have with our guests after the recording. With Alyssa, we spoke a little bit more about family, the family dynamics and relationships and difficulties there with Trevor's side. So jump on patreon.com/remembering them podcast to follow us on there. Reminder, we have the My Legacy message service, mylegacymessage.com.au, where you can record and leave video messages to your loved ones, which are delivered to them often as a surprise after you pass. mylegacymessage.com.au, a supporter of the podcast. Reminder that we have the partnership with BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/remembering them podcast. Alyssa mentioned that how 6 months post Trevor passing, therapy really helped her navigate what she was going through and identifying the relationships and how she'd chosen the people in her life. So I think that's a really important piece as well to help people through grief. So jump on betterhelp.com for 10% off your first month's membership with them by using our code. And also just a quick reminder to follow us on all of our socials, Instagram being the main one, Remembering Them Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, we're on there as well, but mainly on Instagram. Thank you very much for listening. I hope Luke and Ryan have enjoyed their time with the cheetahs today. Cheetahs, the animal. Looking forward to having further conversations with those guys involved. I think they've missed out on a really good conversation today with Alyssa. And again, really grateful and honored, Alyssa, coming on and sharing your story. Thank you so much for jumping on after the kids have gone to bed. We really appreciate you giving up your time. We really appreciate everyone listening to the Remembering Them podcast, and looking forward to the next conversation. Love you. Bye.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.